The irony wasn't lost on me that my dating algorithm, designed to help people find their perfect match, had just helped me realize how desperately unhappy I was with my own life. I stared at my computer screen in my glass-walled office at the heart of Silicon Valley, watching as our latest success metrics rolled in. TrueMatch, the AI-powered dating app I'd created, had just hit 100 million users worldwide. Our algorithm had facilitated over 10 million successful relationships, earning us the nickname the Love Oracle. Forbes had dubbed me the woman who coded love. At 34, I was worth an estimated $850 million on paper, and I hadn't felt genuine human connection in years. My name is Maya Patel, and this is the story of how I walked away from a billion-dollar tech empire to rediscover what my own algorithm had been trying to tell me all along, that real connection can't be reduced to ones and zeros. The realization hit me during our weekly product meeting. We were discussing ways to optimize our matching algorithm further, using machine learning to analyze users' digital footprints more deeply. My CTO was excited about a new feature that would scan users' shopping habits to predict compatibility. "Think about it," he said, his eyes bright with technological possibility. "We can analyze every purchase they make, every show they stream, every restaurant they visit. The algorithm will know what they want better than they know themselves." I felt a chill run down my spine. Wasn't that exactly what I'd been doing to myself? Letting data points and metrics determine my choices, optimize my life, quantify my worth. My entire existence had become an algorithm, each decision calculated for maximum efficiency and return on investment. That evening, I stayed late in my office, doing something I hadn't done in years. I created a profile on my own app. Not a test profile like the ones we used for quality assurance, but a real one. I answered the questions honestly, stripped of the persona I'd built as Silicon Valley's dating app queen. The algorithm's assessment of my life was brutal in its accuracy. According to my own creation, I was living in complete opposition to my core values. The data showed someone who claimed to value genuine connection, but spent most of her time in virtual meetings. Someone who said she wanted deep relationships, but hadn't had a real conversation that wasn't about work in months. I ran a simulation asking the algorithm to predict my happiness levels based on my current life patterns. The result, a clear downward trajectory. The irony was painful. I had created an algorithm sophisticated enough to recognize that its creator was on a path to emotional bankruptcy. That night, I did something else I hadn't done in years. I called my grandmother in Gujarat, India. Unlike my parents who had fully embraced our family's transition to American tech royalty, my grandmother had maintained her simple life in her small village. The last time I'd visited, I'd spent most of the trip on video calls with investors, barely noticing the peace that pervaded her home. "Nani," I said when she answered, "How did you know when it was time to let go?" She knew immediately what I meant. Before my grandfather died, they had run a successful textile business in Mumbai. At its peak, they had hundreds of employees and contracts with major international brands. Then, in his 50s, my grandfather had sold everything and moved them back to his ancestral village. "Beta," she said, using her pet name for me, "when the cost of holding on becomes greater than the fear of letting go, you will know. Your grandfather understood that success without peace is no success at all." The next morning, I began my exit strategy. It took 3 months to put everything in place. I promoted my CTO to CEO, transferred most of my shares into a trust dedicated to ethical AI development, and kept only enough money to ensure I wouldn't be a burden on anyone while I figured out my next steps. The tech press had a field day when I announced my departure. "Dating app queen ghosts Silicon Valley," read one headline. Another asked, "Has the love algorithm failed its creator?" My inbox filled with messages from concerned friends, confused investors, and journalists seeking exclusive interviews about my breakdown. But the most interesting messages came from other tech founders. "I dream about doing what you're doing," wrote the creator of a popular productivity app. "How did you find the courage?" asked a well-known social media entrepreneur. I didn't have answers for them yet. All I knew was that I couldn't continue living a life that my own algorithm had deemed unsustainable. 2 weeks after my announcement, I boarded a flight to India. My grandmother's village became my first stop on a journey with no predetermined destination. The contrast between my former life and this new reality was stark. Instead of my minimalist penthouse with its smart everything, I slept in my grandmother's spare room, where the most advanced technology was a ceiling fan. My grandmother watched with amusement as I struggled to adjust. "Your hands," she said one morning, "they have forgotten how to work." She was right. My fingers, so adept at coding complex algorithms, fumbled with simple tasks like helping her make roti or tend to her small garden. But slowly, something began to shift. Without screens constantly demanding my attention, I started noticing things. The way the morning light created patterns on the courtyard floor. The complex social algorithms at work in the village, where relationships were built on centuries of tradition rather than artificial intelligence. I began keeping a journal, not on my laptop, but in an actual notebook, letting my thoughts flow without the ability to delete or optimize them. One entry read, "Have I been so focused on helping others find connection that I forgot how to connect with myself?" Word spread through the village that the granddaughter who had made it big in America was back, but instead of the tech CEO they expected, they found a woman learning to live again. The village children taught me their games, laughing at my clumsiness. The elders shared stories that no algorithm could have captured, wisdom passed down through generations. 3 months into my stay, I received an email from Sandra, a TrueMatch user whose story had gone viral. She had found her husband through the app 2 years ago, but it wasn't the algorithm that had made their relationship work. "The app brought us together," she wrote, "but it was the messy, unquantifiable human stuff that made us fall in love. Thank you for creating the tool, but please know that the magic happened in the spaces between the data." Her words struck a chord. In trying to perfect the science of matching people, had we overlooked the art of human connection? I thought about all the variables we have factored into our algorithm: education, interests, values, behaviors. But how do you quantify the way someone's eyes crinkle when they laugh? How do you assign a numerical value to the feeling of finding someone who makes you want to be a better person? My grandmother found me sitting in her garden, lost in thought. Without a word, she handed me a cup of chai and settled beside me. "You know," she said, "before all these smartphones and apps, we had our own matching algorithm. The aunties of the village knew everyone's stories, their hearts, their dreams. They made matches not based on data, but on an understanding of human nature that came from years of watching people grow and change." I laughed. "Are you saying I reinvented the village matchmaker?" "Perhaps," she smiled, "but you forgot the most important part of their job. They themselves were deeply connected to the community. They didn't just collect information, they held people's hopes in their hands." "When was the last time you held someone's hopes, Maya?" Her question stayed with me as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I started helping at the local school, teaching children basic computer skills, but also learning from their uninhibited joy and curiosity. I joined the women's cooperative that my grandmother helped run, where business decisions were made not just based on profit margins, but on what would best serve the community. 6 months after leaving Silicon Valley, I finally felt ready to check my TrueMatch profile again. The algorithm now showed a different person, someone whose values and actions were coming into alignment, whose happiness trajectory was trending upward. But more importantly, I no longer needed an algorithm to tell me who I was or what I needed. I began writing about my experience, not for publication or profit, but to make sense of my transformation. The journal entries became a blog, shared initially just with the other tech founders who had reached out after my departure. Their responses surprised me. Many shared their own feelings of disconnection, their struggle to reconcile their success with their growing sense of emptiness. 1 year after walking away from TrueMatch, I found myself sitting under a neem tree in my grandmother's garden, on a video call with a group of tech executives who wanted to understand how to create more human-centered technologies. The irony of using technology to discuss moving beyond technology wasn't lost on me. "The problem," I told them, "isn't technology itself. It's the illusion that we can engineer our way to meaningful connection. Real connection happens in the spaces where algorithms fail, in the uncertainty, the messiness, the unquantifiable moments of genuine human interaction." My grandmother's wisdom had helped me understand that true innovation wasn't about creating perfect matches or optimizing human connection. It was about creating spaces where real connection could flourish, then having the courage to step back and let the magic of human interaction take over. As my story spread, I began receiving invitations to speak at conferences and universities. But instead of talking about coding or entrepreneurship, I spoke about the importance of maintaining our humanity in an increasingly algorithmic world. I shared what I had learned about the difference between connecting and truly belonging. The most surprising outcome of my journey came from an unexpected source. Remember Sandra, the TrueMatch success story who had written to me? She became the catalyst for transforming how I thought about my legacy. Her observation about the spaces between the data inspired a new project, not another dating app, but a foundation dedicated to preserving and promoting spaces for genuine human connection in our digital age. We called it the Human Algorithm Project. Its mission wasn't to replace traditional matchmaking or community building, but to support and enhance them. We funded community centers, cultural preservation projects, and programs that brought people together in real physical spaces. The foundation became a bridge between the technology I had helped create and the timeless wisdom of human connection I had rediscovered in my grandmother's village. 2 years after my abrupt departure from Silicon Valley, I finally understood what my own algorithm had been trying to tell me. The pattern it had detected in my life, the disconnect between my values and my actions, wasn't just a personal crisis. It was a reflection of a larger struggle in our society, where we increasingly try to optimize and quantify experiences that are fundamentally unquantifiable. I still believe in the power of technology to bring people together. TrueMatch continues to help people find initial connections, but now I understand that this is just the beginning. True relationships, whether romantic, familial, or communal, flourish in the spaces where algorithms fear to tread. My grandmother, watching me work in her garden one morning, summed it up perfectly. You had to travel halfway around the world to discover what was written in your heart all along. Sometimes the longest journey is the one from the head to the heart. Today, I divide my time between the village and the wider world. The fortune I walked away from has been replaced by something far more valuable, a sense of genuine connection to myself and others. The algorithm that once defined my success now serves as a reminder of the limitations of trying to reduce human experience to data points. As I write this from my grandmother's garden, where the Wi-Fi signal is spotty but the human connection is strong, I think about all the people still caught in the trap I once lived in, measuring their worth in metrics, seeking validation through virtual achievements, trying to optimize their way to happiness. To them, I offer not an algorithm but an invitation to step away from the screens, to rediscover the messy, beautiful, unquantifiable experience of genuine human connection. Because in the end, the most important matches we can make are not between data points, but between our actions and our values, between who we are and who we wish to become. The woman who coded love had to unplug completely to finally understand it, and that understanding was worth more than all the algorithms in Silicon Valley.